So as designers, we often hear what's an API, what's an API, or we hear devs make conversation about, we just add an API or consume the API, and all the nonsense talk. So I'm going to explain what an API is in this video in a way that designers can relate with and understand it in relative terms. So yeah, it's extremely dark outside now. It's like 1 a.m. in the morning. Here's the first thing, or the first step to the explanation. See this guy that we have here. This guy is a changeover switch. Let's call this guy the database, right? That's what we should call this guy. But remember, this is the changeover switch. This controls the light in the house. If I switch this off, no lights. Up never. But note, this is our database and this is how it works. You switch it off, no light, switch it on, this light. We call this guy database. This is the second piece of the puzzle. So this guy over here is going to be how I would explain. This is the second piece of the puzzle. Voila. Now this endpoint here, this first one here, am I supposed to be putting knife inside this thing? this end no. Good. I'm an engineer, by the way. This endpoint here is for username, email, and this is for password, right? So all this here are for extra things that we will not be talking about, but by the time the concept makes sense, we'll understand. And the one on the Yash too is for also the same thing. But now our sets, we know these holes, the holes are our endpoints. So whenever there is light, remember from the what? The database. That's this particular database. Whenever that database is on, like it is here, we would have light here, and then we'll have, that means there's light in this endpoint. That means if I use this knife, I could feel shock. Let's move on to the next piece in this explanation. Good. So now for context, I would explain this simple way, right? First of all, since we already know here, we already know from this what our power source is. Let's call this guy database. So now this is our backend database, right? Let's call this, the API. So by now you already have the idea. But as a designer, let me explain to you how this works generally. Now you can see that this onboarding screen just has basically a nickname, as I mentioned earlier, an email, and then a password. Those three things, right? Is that this endpoint here, this top here, right? I'm going to put a mark here, hold shift, and then put it to this guy. Remember, they are called endpoint, connected to this nickname section here. Then we'll do the same thing again for this guy. Now, this purple guy will connected to this email section here. You already know where this is going to already, right? So yes, and then let's switch this up a little bit. Someone take me home where I'm supposed to be, my house actually. So now this guy over here will be our what? Our third endpoint. Let's change it to a different color. You can see from here is that all these are connected to these points. That's basically in essence what an API is. An API is an application interface. Now what this does is it's an application interface. It's an interface between the application itself and the database. What your front-end devs do most of the time is they consume endpoint. The API has a database like this. This is where the electricity is stored. Let's say this is where the electricity is stored. The API connects to a database. A database stores all that information. Now it distributes it through all the jaga wire here to API like this, an application interface that makes it easier for you to get called on or connected to to a point like this, your design. So when somebody is filling in their name, filling in their email, filling in their password here, right? All that information is specifically named going into the bracket that is the endpoint for name in that API. And then from there it's coming back to this place here and it's storing somewhere inside here, right? Now, if somebody fills something else here, like their password, is going to the specific bracket. An API, in essence, is an application interface. It is basically the interface that connects the database together with your front end. It is the main guy that allows all the information that users put in here to go in somewhere that can later be called. So, for example, now you put in your name here, you put everything here.
Then later on, you now be like, let's say you create a new landing page, right? You now be like, nice. So here you now have, let's say you have this angle here now, right? You now have boss Ali Tech Lead welcome. The only reason why this Ali Tech Lead exists in this particular place, treat this as an endpoint. Treat this as an endpoint. Let's change the color. Let's put it on top here. Now, this is not just a text. To you, this is just a normal text, but no, it's not just a normal text. It is a point, an input point to your front end dev. That name should appear here. So on their code base, you just transfer name into this section, right? So now what they do is this name section here is being called into this particular endpoint. That means they are sending any information here. The front end dev will connect it to this place. They are just copying links up and down, and yes, they cannot see. Anyway, they copy and they do connect these links together. Now it goes into this place, right? And when this page is called, when this page is now time for this page to appear, they will still come back here and now tell the API that come, this link that enters here, oh, I want it back. Let's run autoflow again. And select this guy. Select this guy. Nice. Very nice. So now they will take this point here. They will tell the API that, whoa, come, oh, I need something from you. It's not that deep, but it's just important. They take this point here and they connect it to this point and say, we need another endpoint. They ask this guy here, we need another endpoint too, but this endpoint will be giving out name, not collecting, right? We're giving out what they need. These are the list of endpoints that they want. An endpoint that gives out front, that gives out username. They'll come here and collect it. Username, not full name, Abi. Good. You'll collect any nickname that enter here, they'll collect it. The front end dev will now say, okay, since I have a database of this guy that stores that name, I will now create another endpoint, another passage that distributes that name from the API. And that's what they do. Maybe down on top. You know that on top I was showing you. Down on top will now be distributing the name. They will now carry it, connect this link to what you have here, right? And then the name will appear here. So any name you put here will come and be appearing here because that enter from here to this place, and then come back to this point. That's basically what they do. The welcome is a static thing, so you know they change. But this is very key and important, so they change. Now, why am I explaining this? So in your process of design, there's some things that you should not change so often because you think it's so easy. It affects them really bad, and it goes as well as affecting the database itself. So if you keep on changing the way this information is displayed or what information is displayed here all the time, for example, if you put nickname to be displayed here, and then you're not in the mood one day, you do one user experience and you change it from nickname to email. Now they have to go out. If there is no endpoint for that, they have to tell the backend dev to create endpoints. Then the API will now have endpoints for the front end to then consume that endpoint and then make it appear here. Then one day you decide that let me add son name, and then the son name will now appear beside it. Since it's design is easy, but for them they have to create it again. Now this is exactly how an API works, and that's what an API is. So if you don't know what an API is, this is basically it. If you have any more questions, please kindly explain to me. Let me know in the comments. But an API is an application interface that interfaces between the backend and the front end and allows the front end to consume information that's passed into the front, into the the UI. Every day they settle down, they consume API. Those guys that do rubbish at designs, but they are awesome guys as well. They're really awesome guys. With that being said, that comes to the end of this video. Kindly subscribe. Please subscribe. Thank you. Like and share this with somebody else that asks you what an API is. Even show this to a dev. And if a dev that is watching this is what an API is. If you think I made a mistake, let me know. Anyways, see you on the next video. Bye.